There we go.
Also, this is, oh, yep, perfect. So, hi, hello, welcome. I am Lauren Ballard. We are in Sustainably Shifting Your Style workshop. I know there's a few additional ones going on right now. So if you're in the wrong place, I apologize. Welcome anyway, or you can see yourself out if you desire. Um, our moderator and tech support, I think above me is Chris. He is great. It is also both of our first times navigating this particular programming, so we appreciate your patience and flexibility with that. A couple of things that I intend to go over during the workshop includes what is sustainability, how it applies to fashion, how you can shop in a more sustainable and conscious way. In addition, I think I know most of you in here, so you probably know most of these things about me. I appreciate you going over it again with me and maybe learning some more. I have both expertise and experience in the subject, but I originally started my focus in sustainability because of personal growth and personal goals that I had. Um, Again, please feel free to react utilizing the buttons on the left-hand side. Again, there's a question, so winner if you have questions. Hey, there it is. Looking forward to seeing those pop up. And we'll do our best to kind of go through those as they come in, but we have saved some time at the end for those in particular. So let us start at the beginning, at least the beginning of my experience, not so much at the beginning because that would take almost 37 years. Anyhow, I was born and raised in Indianapolis. I think most of you know that because they're related to me or you have known me for time or met me there, which is why I was asked to participate in this, and I'm really super grateful that I am a part of it. So originally, not originally, I went to school at Syracuse University in good old Syracuse, New York. I have a degree in fashion design and magazine journalism from the Newhouse School of Journalism. I actually went there for 5 years. So for the last 2.5, I tried to switch my major to my minor to my major, assuming that I wanted a more specialized specialized option in journalism or being a fashion journalist. What I ended up deciding on was either doing personal styling and or fashion journalism. By the time I left, they actually came up with a major specific to that. So I'm glad that I could inspire them. My thesis also included the opportunity to like or production um, an entire line, I guess you could say, or collection. So I do have a lot of experience in that, but given that whole time frame of doing it, that's exactly when I decided that I did not want to be a designer whatsoever. I did have a few internships along the way, some of which gave me the opportunity to attend Fashion Week back in 2005 and 2006. I was able to do some interviews with people who actually weren't super famous at the time. One of those designers included Alexander Wang, which is amazing. I never really thought I'd look back on that and be like, oh, wow, I actually met him and interviewed him before he was famous-ish. Another designer included Irina Shabayeva, which she was on Project Runway afterwards. So I don't know if that's familiar to anyone, but they weren't super familiar to me at the time. It was cool to be able to do that. I moved back home after college, so back to Indianapolis for about 10 years. In 2010 is when I kind of started doing some focus on actual personal styling on my own. I also had the opportunity to work at Nordstrom at the Fashion Mall. I was a personal stylist there out of the men's department. So, Chris, this may appeal to you or not, but I chose that location to be out of because, as I understood it, it was the most challenging. And I wanted to start with the hardest option first. So being able to learn something that was out of my category of knowledge and definitely in relation to custom suiting and things that, I wasn't super familiar with. Also, being a personal stylist allowed you to kind of shop all over the store, and you get to learn a lot about different brands and fit and styling across different body types and obviously different people. So men, women, children, shoes, which would have thought that shoes would be so challenging, but they are. I also briefly worked for a company called JBD Styles. So they do custom suiting for men specifically. But I was able to, they do a lot of work with NFL and NBA athletes. So I had the opportunity to meet a couple of local people who played for the Colts, some NBA athletes. Obviously, that gave me another lesson in body types and fit, and it kind of brought me back to some of my roots from Syracuse, being able to, take measurements and apply them to actually making garments. I briefly, so in 2017, the end of the year, I moved to Florida. So I've been in Florida for about 3.5 years, which is where I'm coming to you now. It is actually currently on and off rainy, so I apologize if that comes into play anytime here. But I briefly, when I lived in Orlando, I worked at a high-end boutique called Zuzu Boutique. And again, it was just kind of more about fit, brand, design, meeting people in the area and kind of seeing the things that they were interested in. So that I, again, gained a lot more knowledge in what people are looking for and, what maybe changed from city to city. And I learned that Florida doesn't really have any seasons. They're all maybe dedicated towards summer. So there's a lot of things that don't necessarily apply here that may across other parts of the country in which they have fluctuating temperature. So the majority of my experience, as you've probably already heard, kind of centered around a lot of fast fashion. A friend of mine from college is a producer on a show called One Small Step, which is through Now This News. You guys might be familiar with something of the sort, or you can definitely find it on YouTube or on Instagram. And they were in Florida a couple of years ago, so I had the opportunity to meet Lucy Biggers. She is the host of the show One Small Step. And it allowed for me to, so I started following her on Instagram, and I started watching a lot of, what she and my friend Devin were making. And the premise is that, you can take one small step in whatever area it may be to have more of a sustainability focus. And that really allowed for me to see some things that maybe I hadn't seen before. One of which was, it really got me kind of in my gut. It was in relation to the fashion industry. Things that I was already aware of, but maybe it didn't really apply to me at the time because of where I was working or what I was doing. And the fashion industry contributes, unfortunately, a lot to the demise of the planet. And it was really something that just spoke to me that said, I have to do something differently. While I very much have a passion for what I do, this can't be it. This cannot be, I don't feel comfortable representing this category, representing this job in the ways in which it's contributing to our planet, our lifestyle, etc. So in the consecutive years after meeting her, I gave myself some goals, one of which, like 1 year, I don't really do resolutions, but more so, as a year started, I would think, okay, what can I learn more about? So one of the first ones was teaching myself to be more low waste conscious and kind of just where that, what that meant for me and how I wanted to apply that. One of the following years, I want to say was maybe last year or the year before. I mean, who even remembers 2020, right? But one of those was learning more about composting and what that means for me. I actually live in kind of a smaller apartment, and I don't really have the ability to personally compost, but like how that can make sense, for what I do and how it might apply. And then I would say more recently, so I believe this was the beginning of last year, I had the idea that I wanted to become a stylist that was with my focus in sustainability. So as I've done most things in life, I try to learn about it first before I apply it to anybody else. And my goal was transitioning at least 25% of my wardrobe to secondhand, or what I like to refer to as new to me. Pardon me. So basically for me, the rules I have for myself are basically that it cannot be purchased new, or at least I cannot be the first person to purchase it. This also came shortly after I ended up transitioning my diet. So I am what I like to, I guess, refer to as vegan-ish. Before the pandemic, I kept vegan at home, and it was very challenging because I couldn't give up sushi, so I only ate fish sometimes. But then during a pandemic, I ended up cooking fish at home. But that's for me, I don't eat gluten, dairy, eggs. And that is something that I realized I didn't claim veganism for a very long time because I felt like it was also, there was so many other things that came with the title that I didn't necessarily embody yet. So that is part of the reason that I say ish, because obviously I still eat fish sometimes. But I also think that, starts to kind of transform your brain and your thought process and how that affects you, really. So became and in that process, I became certainly more conscious of my body, my footprint, what I'm, leaving on this earth. Um, I also, I decided also that I wanted to, make a job out of these things and like still have this passion for fashion and styling people, and then how I could assist people in the same ways that I've been learning to do for myself over the past few years. So now, of course, I am a stylist with a focus on sustainability, as mentioned. Um, and and some of you have already taken me up on this, and I appreciate it, hired in person or for virtual consulting, which is something that I've done a little bit of during a pandemic, but not a ton. Obviously, Florida is a little more lax than some other states with in-person. That can be different for everyone, which is why sometimes we like to utilize the virtual scenario. There was an inflection in my voice that made it feel like I was going to say something else. In that part, I am personally finished, but I want to know if anybody has any questions thus far. Please feel free to turn your mic on or include it in a chat if you desire. Or if you do not, you can send a little reaction. You can do a I disagree reaction, a thumbs down if you desire. So I think we're mostly good there. Cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. So now we're going to kind of get into, don't mind, we're going to hit another person really fast. Amazing. Hi, Callie. Thank you for joining us. If you desire, top left, you can turn your mic on or your video on. We're happy to have you. More than welcome to participate at any time. We're just getting started talking about kind of in general, what does sustainably shifting your style mean? So I would love to go over some terms that exist, or I don't know if you think you have some idea or not. Sustainability or sustainable in general is essentially meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So it's a balance between the environment, the economy, and ethics. And that is something that, really means a lot to me now. Um, Ethical fashion, you may come across that also. So garment design, production, and distribution that focuses on reducing harm to people and the planet. There's also a term I think I mentioned before that wanted to become more low waste conscious. I personally didn't think I could be zero waste, but zero waste encourages redesign of resource life cycles so that all the products are used. You might also hear it referred to as like circular fashion. So the goal is for no trash to be sent to landfills, incinerators, or go to the ocean whatsoever. So everything is being utilized in that manner. Secondhand, which is previously owned or used. So as I previously mentioned, that for me is one of my personal goals. When I say like new to me, as long as I haven't purchased it before, that applies for my personal shopping. Um, Vintage, which I think is something that people think a lot of when they're thinking about sustainability and what have you. But vintage, the term itself, is an original item or condition. It's usually about 20 to 100 years old. And then like the phrase antique is used usually when something is 100 years old. So vintage shopping is a little bit different from thrifting, which we'll get into at some point. Reusing and repurposing. So reusing is seeing an item in a new light. So potentially styled in a new way, or maybe utilizing it for its fabric content. And then repurposing, so bringing new life to something that is already used. As we mentioned in the vintage story, of course, loved previously, but good enough, in like good enough shape to be used or welcome to a new home, usually an item from a thrift store, garage sale, flea market, swap meet, that sort of thing. I have heard of um, slow clothing or slow fashion, which is the opposite, of course, of fast fashion. But it's a philosophy, way of thinking, choosing and wearing clothing to ensure that brings meaning, value, and joy to every day. And this is basically where, like, really what touched me in my heart space when I started thinking about like how I wanted to contribute my expertise in styling. I read this quote that I really loved, and it said, opening up your closet should be like arriving at a really good party where everyone you see is someone you like. And I can say, at least right now, because of course I know the majority of people in here, this is exactly what it feels like currently. I love that this space is for everyone, certainly, but I do have a lot of support in this, and it really does feel like a party in which I like everybody here, and we're all having a good time thus far. If you're having a good time, let me see a thumbs up, or you can do it in the reaction. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that. Oh, yay! Thank you so much. I love the hearts too. A few other terms I wanted to make mention of, which again, you're probably familiar with a lot of these things, but really just kind of want to get a better idea because I'll refer back to them. Supporting local is spending money with individuals and not corporations is the basic categorization of that. That could be, a specific boutique, or it could be Etsy. Ideally, it's in your city or town so as to lower your and their potential carbon footprint. We made mention of fast fashion as essentially inexpensive clothing that is produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends. It does not necessarily take into account, usage of resources. Carbon footprint is the amount of carbon dioxide that's released into the atmosphere as a result of activities from individuals, organizations, communities, however that needs to work. Hi, Mark. And carbon emissions, so that is probably the most relevant. Same sort of situation, releasing carbon into the atmosphere, which can come from burning fossil fuels, which obviously the largest source of that is our greenhouse gas emissions, which in turn increases global warming. So not to necessarily speak politically, but it does exist. We all have kind of an idea of why fast fashion might be bad, but we can go over that momentarily. I'd love to hear from you, at least right now, of those terms that we went over. Is there anything that you weren't already aware of, or there's something that you have a question about thus far? There should be also a chat box, so if you desire, you're more than welcome to utilize that, or you can turn your mic on. We don't even have to see your face if you don't desire. And you're more than welcome. I want to always give people the opportunity, just in case. Is circular fashion zero waste? Yes, at least my understanding of it is, because the way in which it's defined is that zero waste is making sure every resource is used. So circular fashion, same thing. Recycling is kind of in the middle of those two things. So like recycling obviously is like from essentially, it's not necessarily going in the trash, you're finding a different way to utilize it, but the resources, you're not necessarily utilizing all the resources. So I would say I'm more like more of a recycler and or low waste. I'm definitely not zero waste. Momentarily, or at some point in here, I'm going to go over what I'm wearing for you, and we're going to do the same with maybe some of the things that you are wearing. But for me, I have some things that like I know, and we'll talk about this later, but like fabric choices that I can't guarantee that these aren't going to go back into the planet, but I know how I accumulated the item was more secondhand. So that's what for me personally speaks to me in that regard. Thank you for the question. So in terms of the reason that it is great, reasons, one of which water usage. So both in the amount that it takes to dye and finish fabrics, but also the runoff that happens from the untreated toxic wastewater gets dumped into our waterways all across the planet. So a couple of just little like notes and facts for you as well. It takes about 700 gallons of water to make a single cotton shirt. So that is about the equivalent of one person staying hydrated for 900 days. You can react to that. You can dislike. I don't know what other negative reactions there are on that, but I will tell you this applied for me personally in my diet as well, when I came to learn that it takes more water to make almond milk than any other non-dairy substitute. I decided to try not to use almond milk anywhere in my diet. My personal preference is oat or coconut or flax, just because that doesn't utilize the same amount of water. And obviously with global warming as well, that is, taking away some of our resources in that regard as well. The amount of water needed to make one pair of jeans is the equivalent to hosing down your lawn for 9 hours straight. I don't know about you guys, but in Florida, when it gets to be too hot, there are stipulations on when you can actually have your water turned on, like for watering your lawn. So you can imagine what that could look like for anywhere else that is not somewhere that is pretty much hot all of the time. One of the other reasons that is a problem is in relation to microfibers. So microfibers come off of synthetic fabrics, which we'll refer to soon, every time we wash them. So that means that, no matter where you are, they will exist. They end up being consumed at some point by aquatic organisms, which then fish eat them, then we eat fish. So inevitably, we are distributing microplastics into our food chain. The problem with plastic is that only 9% of all plastic ends up being recycled. So we don't have the ability to have it break down and obviously stays on our planet, in our landfills, etc. The toxins in the chemicals that are used to produce and manufacture clothing can also still be present. So we don't have necessarily a way of getting through that thus far. In relation to fast fashion, another little note is every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or burned, which is crazy to think about, in my opinion. And also, clothing can take up to 200 years to decompose, which is why, for me, just reading some of these things, seeing some of these things, really made me feel differently about the ways in which I was going about my career. And just things like that. 200 years is way too long. You don't even know if it entirely will. So another way, which we kind of referred to before, is in relation to how fast fashion impacts the environment through carbon emissions. So previously, the fashion industry was responsible for 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions each year, which is more than international flights and maritime shipping combined. Now, prior to a pandemic, we obviously did a lot more of both of those things. But you can imagine the gravity of that. That is really almost unfathomable to me and to some people. But when you think about it, it's just insane. Only 15% of textile waste is donated or recycled in the U.S. As it currently stands. I wanted to take another bit of a moment to see if we have, or any of resonated with you thus far. Is there anything that I mentioned that that really just surprised you? Again, there's a chat box, or you can turn your microphone on if you desire.
I just had no idea so much water was used in all of those things. That's just blows my mind. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much for your contributions. Also, for those of you who are new to the chat, this is Chris. He's our moderator and tech support. Appreciate you being here. Again, thank you for letting me repeat myself. Top left of your screen, there is a mic and video option for you to turn it on if you desire. If not, I appreciate you just listening to me and potentially anybody else who might be participating. At this time, I do want to attempt, because this is Chris and I's first time navigating some of this programming, I want to show you one of the videos that allowed for me to change what I was doing. So this is one of the videos from Lucy Beers on Now This News. I believe.
Try something real quick, because I think we might need to do this a slightly different way than I was thinking. I'll figure that out though. Callie, did you have a comment there? I thought I saw you come off mute for a moment.
Oh, no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. All right, let me try Let's see if this works. Does that work?
Oh,
By my face, I'm kind of getting an error on my end.
yeah,
Everyone
same.
getting an error? Okay. Well, that's not good. Let me try one more time. What was the error? Do you know? Do you remember?
Mm, Nope, it
Just
just says
won't
an
load the
error.
video.
Please try again later.
No. Okay.
Well, uh-oh.
One more time, and then if that doesn't work, there again.
Let's see.
So what we can do is everyone can go watch the video and then come back. I'm not sure we can share it within this area. That's the problem.
Let us see if, let me see. I get the same thing that Chris gets, so I appreciate your patience in this.
Oh, let me hit allow. Oh yeah, I see the error. I see the error now.
Yeah!
Darn it.
Are we doing it? Are we
I think it just popped up with an error.
doing it? No. Oh, Callie wants to share her screen, which I
I was trying to see if it would work, but
I appreciate your participation in that. Does everybody have the ability or know how to maintain themselves in this workshop, but also go and watch it? Because we have the link that we can share. Ooh,
I wonder, Lauren, if you share your screen, maybe, like Callie was gonna do, and then pull up the video. You wanna try that?
I would love to do that. Works.
And thank you guys for sitting with us while we figure this out. Spinning right now. Oh, there we go. I see it.
Yay!
Everyone
Okay,
else see it?
Yesterday's thinking is done. New ideas, we have a ton. So keep pushing forward toward a better world for everyone. Make a different future. Start different at GoDaddy.com.
The average American throws away 80 pounds of clothing every year. This is an insane amount of clothes. That's not good because once our clothes go to landfill, they break down and release methane gas, a greenhouse gas that's about 30 times more potent than CO2 at trapping heat. So what should we do with our old clothes? I go to a thrift shop, meet a clothing recycler, and talk to a fast fashion rep to find out. I'm Lucy Biggers, and this is One Small Step. In my mission to figure out what to do with my old clothes, I've decided to clean out my closet. Time for me to figure out what I should get rid of and what I should keep. Since 1990, Americans have gone from buying, on average, about 40 garments per year to, in 2016, over 65. I'm bringing these old clothes to a thrift store because that way I know whatever they buy is more likely to be reused. According to ThredUp, the clothing apparel resale market is a $20 billion industry, and it's growing like crazy. This is a great trend because resale stores have a positive impact on the environment. One study of 22 clothing thrift stores in Sweden showed selling used clothes saved 1,500 tons of CO2 emissions over the course of a year. We could power a home for 115 years with the amount of CO2 they saved. If you don't have access to a thrift store, you can resell your clothes online at sites like eBay, Poshmark, and ThredUp. Today, I'm at Beacon's Closet, a thrift shop in Brooklyn. They carry everything from vintage to the latest styles, all of it purchased secondhand. On average, 150 people sell their clothes here every day. This is Leah Gianpietro. She's been working at Beacon's for 10 years. Let's do this. She's a manager and a buyer who's going to use her expert eye to decide if any of my clothes are worthy of their shelves.
So
that scenario, it's okay, don't worry.
Anything she buys will be marked down to 20 to 30% of the original price.
Before we get into my clothes, I'm curious to know, what do you look for when you're buying clothes? What we look for, first and foremost, is the style, whatever is currently on trend, the condition of the items, as well as how stocked we are in different categories. But I would say, yeah, style first and foremost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'm stylish.
And what about fast fashion? I know we have so much of that now. Is that something that you guys are challenged by? We can't often take too much of it in just because it's so readily available out there at low prices. We can't price them even less than what they retailed at to begin with.
Now for the moment of truth.
Oh, no.
In the end, Leah bought 13 of my items and rejected 33.
We did it! Yay! I made some money. Let's calculate how much I made. So our retail value that we have here is $265.35. That's what we're gonna sell everything for in the store. So 35% of that is your cash option. So $92.87.
That's so much.
Yeah, you made a lot more than you thought you were going to. And if you wanted store credit, you have the option of taking $145.94.
I decided to take the store credit so that I can shop the used clothing in the store and save the natural resources it takes to make new clothes.
The next step is really to figure out what to do with the clothes that weren't good enough for them to buy. Where do I donate these guys?
Forgot about ads. Hold on just a second.
From the original donut shop.
Hey guys! This is Adam Berukowicz. He is the founder and CEO of Wearable Collections. According to Adam, his company has diverted nearly 20 million pounds of clothing from landfills since 2004. They run over 300 clothing donation locations across NYC. Today, we're meeting at his warehouse in Greenpoint, where the floor is literally covered with bags of clothing.
People feel very comfortable bringing their bags of clothing to my door and say, since you're a clothing recycler.
In 2015, Americans recycled almost 2.5 million tons of textile waste. That's equal to removing more than 1.2 million cars off the road for a whole year.
What type of clothing are you accepting? Just literally everything?
Yeah, we accept anything, but the industry standard is that about 50% needs to be reusable as secondhand, while 25% can be reused as rags, and the other 20% will be shredded up and repurposed for low-grade fiber products. So we need to stay within those industry standards in order to be a sustainable business. We're a for-profit that dedicates a portion of our proceeds to our partner charities. So when we do a drive with a school, we dedicate a portion of the proceeds to them.
And do you ever get pushed back as you think, when people think, oh, I'm donating my clothes, why is it not going to a nonprofit?
Some people think the charity genie comes, but really the money that can be generated from the sale of the clothes is what helps the organizations and charities.
And it turns out that roughly 80% of donated clothing, even to charities like Goodwill and Salvation Army, gets sold to textile recycling firms.
What I know is it goes to a sorting facility, they're going to process, they're going to reuse as much as possible. And simply because it costs money to get rid of garbage. And they want to make use of this good for as much as they possibly can make use of this good.
Bye, clothes. My bags are empty. Where are we going?
The sorting facility.
Taking this truck to a sorting facility in New Jersey. Look at how many clothes are in this warehouse.
For the sorting facility, clothing is a commodity. Adam says they buy clothes at about 20 to 40 cents per pound, and then they try to resell it for a higher price. When clothes like Adam's arrive at the warehouse, they get sorted by quality and type of clothing. Then they get compressed into 1,000-pound pallets and are shipped to buyers.
It's so crazy because there's so many people working in this warehouse right now. I've seen like 30, 40 people working, and to think that all of these clothes could have just gone to the dump and be sitting in the ground forever, but instead they're creating all these jobs and all this industry is really interesting perspective. Another room done.
Ooh.
Oh.
Excited about magnetic eyelashes. Probably Chris the most.
Is this seriously polo? Look, it says polo. Ugh. And there's a polo. That's crazy.
In 2016, the United States exported $575.5 million in used clothing. Not everyone is happy with our exports because it hurts local manufacturing markets. In recent years, 6 African countries issued a joint proposal to ban all imports of used clothing by 2019. in order to boost local textile and clothing industries. The sheer scale of the clothes at this one sorting facility is pretty shocking. It's obvious we are consuming a lot of clothes in the US, and one of the reasons for this mass consumption is fast fashion. These are cheap brands with short seasons like popular retailers H&M, Forever 21, and Zara. They create tens of thousands of affordable styles per year, which is why they're so easy to shop. I decided to reach out to H&M rep Patrick Shaner to see what they're doing to address our waste problem.
H&M started our garment collecting program worldwide in 2013. And so basically how it works is we have these beautiful boxes, our garment collecting boxes, and these are in every H&M store around the world, which is 71 countries right now. It can be any brand of clothing. It can be bed sheets. It can be one sock that you lost in the laundry. We just say bring it all. By 2030, everything that you buy in H&M will be made from more sustainably sourced materials.
In 2017, H&M says it collected 2.5 million pounds of used clothing in the US. But that's just a drop in the bucket compared to the astronomical amount of new clothes they produce each year. This is really great, but is this enough to offset just how much you guys create?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely an issue, but that's why, along with this at the consumer level, I'm kind of teaching people to be in a more circular mindset when they're thinking of their clothes. Those are really where we're going.
Making this video has made me realize donating and recycling our old clothes is very complicated. Seeing that huge warehouse of our used clothing and understanding that foreign countries don't even want our clothing made me aware that we're over-consuming and it's having real consequences. Right now, only 14% of our clothes get recycled. And even though recycling isn't perfect, it's still better than sending your clothes to the dump. So here's what you can do. Keep your old clothing in your community. Use a local thrift store, donate to local charities. And if those aren't near you, take advantage of recycling programs offered by companies like H&M. Or try this hack. Visit givebackbox.com/Amazon. All you do is you take an old box, fill it with used clothing, print out a prepaid shipping label from their website, bring it to your post office, and voila, your donations will be shipped for free. It's clear to me that the clothing industry has a lot of issues around sustainability. It is ripe for innovation on so many levels, and that's a whole other video that I am looking forward to making. Thank you so much for watching this episode of One Small Step. I hope it was as enlightening for you as it was for me. If you like.
So, in that regard, we can certainly see a lot of things. I appreciate you guys, welcome you guys back. Hi, Sherry. I hadn't seen you yet, so I wanted to say hello. Appreciate you. I'm gonna come back to the chat shortly to re-find my notes. So, boom, got him. Ooh, okay. Is everybody back? Did we enjoy that little session of not me talking? Hook me up with a thumbs up if we liked it. I think that's, or you can hit the one button. So everything that Lucy went over in that video, I have a little bit more to talk about in that regard. So now it's kind of like, okay, how does sustainability apply to fashion? And we've obviously seen a little bit more reasoning why it's important. So that can be with the brands that you are choosing to utilize. A couple of brands that are certified B corporations and or utilize a specific type of materials include Stella McCartney, Eileen Fisher, Patagonia, Reformation, Levi's. There's a group called Kuyana, which does like a vegan leather sort of thing. They make really beautiful products. Also applies to the items that you have in your closet or you utilize to organize your home. When I first moved, when my first goal was trying to figure out how to have more, or one of my first goals when I was trying to do more low waste things, and I had recently moved to Tampa, I was trying to find more low waste hangers because I didn't want to use plastic hangers. One of my resources is at Plastic Freedom. They're a company based out of the United Kingdom. Pardon me, I reached out to the woman who owns that, and she led me in a direction of utilizing more like wooden hangers, but trying to find ones without lacquer, or buying or reusing hangers from somebody else, etc. You can also utilize like soft baskets, so for storage, or items that can be changed out seasonally, like sweaters, some thank you, Mom, for the contribution of no more wire hangers. Also that too. So utilizing baskets, maybe even some shoes, or for instance, that applies for me in terms of being in Florida for like beach wear or things like that you don't necessarily want to mix in with, if you will. Also, as we previously talked about, in the fabrics that you buy. So more natural fabrics such as cotton, silk. We're really getting into, in this industry, utilizing hemp for a lot more things all across the board, but you can make clothing from hemp as well. Synthetics, which we have briefly talked about, some are good, if you will. A lot of synthetics, again, have plastic in them, so that's also what makes them bad, but they're good for things like warmth. So you'll find like nylon, polyester, those are typically things that are used for, let's say you're going camping, and that's what your probably part of your sleeping bag is made out of. Some stuff like that. So there's also rayon and viscose that are also wood-based, but they can cause deforestation because they're utilizing wood products to have the fabric made up. Most of the synthetics, as we already talked about, do have plastic in them. And again, because only 9% of all plastic is recycled, it obviously still contributes to landfills and oceans, etc. I'm kind of glad Lucy went over some of those other things in that video, because we can really see it, and we can take it apart in that regard. It's a little bit easier than me just talking about it. One of the things that I really loved when I first moved here, I found a place in St. Pete called the Refillery, and it's you can find them kind of all over the country. They're not as big everywhere yet, but certainly in places that are a little more conscious of that, maybe let's say California, Oregon, things of that nature. But the one I found here was called the Refillery, and they're usually going to focus on bulk creation. You can make your own things there. One of which they will probably have is a more natural or more environmentally conscious way for you to wash your clothing, which increases their longevity. It helps you support local, saves the planet, lowers your carbon footprint. Another way in which we can help is how we are purchasing goods. So Nordstrom stylist there, so this was kind of cool for me to know. They started a it's called Resale by Nordstrom. So it's previously purchased goods that people can then they are then reselling on their website for availability, which is kind of a, I don't know, like a more luxurious way of doing like secondhand or thrifting, in my opinion, but they still made an effort to do so I can appreciate that in that regard. Local secondhand stores, of course. In Indianapolis, I know that there is Broad Ripple Vintage and the Toggery. Where I used to live in Orlando and also in Tampa, there's a place called Avalon Exchange. There's also Buffalo Exchange, which is across the US. I've personally been to the ones in Atlanta, San Francisco, and LA. So those are thrift stores. San Diego, where I plan to move, there is a place called Second Day Vintage in North Park. So again, they call it vintage, but it's more so a thrift store. I'm sure they do have a few options for vintage items there as well, but for the most part it's thrifting. And there's a lot of swap meets that I found as well. So there's one in San Diego called Kobe Swap Meet, which is super huge. They not only things of clothing, but many things, home goods, shoes, jewelry, etc. Way that we can also purchase probably came to fruition exponentially last year is online. So another decision I made last year, and this is certainly no judgment for anyone else, but I chose not to purchase anything from Amazon. I tried to, or at least that was my last ditch effort. So the first option was to try and find it locally, and make more of an effort that way. And I think that is the basis of all of these things. Is a lot of fast fashion and things of that nature are solely based on convenience, how quickly we can get an item, how easily it's made, etc. So when you put more effort into looking for things and certainly shopping local, you're able to provide to these local individuals. You're lowering your carbon footprint, etc., etc. So I repurchased my first thing off of Amazon for the in like little less than a year, 2 weeks ago. Could not find it anywhere else. So, and I searched high and low for like 3 months. I felt like that was enough effort. So I am not without fault, certainly. But sometimes you have to get back in the game. Some of the significance, of course, of being more sustainable, and owning less things and minimizing, less stress for us, of course, easier to find things in your wardrobe in general because you have probably taken it down a notch. Focus on quality over quantity. So when you are investing into pieces, there are things that you will have ideally with longevity and not necessarily a bunch of different things. Example for younger generations as well. So we have things like generational wealth, but also what are we teaching younger generations, be it maybe it's our children or our grandchildren or people that we're in charge of, or things like workshops, being able to give knowledge to people that they may not have already had. I think it also allows for us to live more intentionally. As mentioned, I really took my time to, I ended up purchasing a book off of Amazon, of all things. It sounds crazy. I searched at, I want to say like 4 different local bookstores, and none of them had the thing that I was looking for. But I did feel like I put so much effort into it. And it also allowed for me to see all these different bookstores I didn't even know existed in my community. So that was super cool. But, it gave me a sense of being grateful for making that effort. And then in turn, once I did actually receive the item, I was super excited about that too, because I've been looking for the book for however long. Obviously better for the environment. This is something that we'll continue to preach about. And we're able to contribute to good causes. Apologies because this took a little bit of time. And potentially, I know some people had reached out to me and asked if they could, if money would go to me. And while we very much appreciate that, where I wanted to contribute, if you do decide that you want to donate something, one of my favorite local places is Dayspring Homeless Shelter, and I would love for you to be able to donate to them. If you do want to donate if you do want to donate anything to anyone, I would very much appreciate if you could make a contribution or volunteer with them. I would love, love, love that. A few more additional things about ways you can shop sustainably and ethically in today's environment. A lot of it has been one-on-one or by yourself, or hiring someone like me to assist you. You can, go through your closet. I feel like, give me a thumbs up if that's something you did during a pandemic. Oh, give me a thumbs up if you did it more than once. Hey, there we go. I mean, how many times did you bake banana bread? I'm sure that was probably in there too. You can, after that, you kind of eliminate the items you don't want in your closet anymore from there. So deciding on what you want to do with these items. If you're on the fence about keeping it because the fit is off, you definitely want to consider tailoring or, taking it to someone who can allow for it to fit you. Most items are made from if it's like a designer, it's made from the fit model for that specific designer, which is why you don't find that you are different sizes in different brands, because a fit model is different for every design house. So that's how that happens. So they're kind of just made generically, and then you go from there. Also, if you want Lucy do, take it to a secondhand store or thrift store to sell it. You can also sell it online. You can repurpose it. So let's say it's like a cotton t-shirt, you can cut that up and use it as scraps for cleaning your home. And then you can just toss it in the wash when necessary. You can hang it to dry if you don't want to utilize your dryer. There's a places in that I shop. I do a lot of, besides doing like a local secondhand thing, I get a lot of my items from Poshmark personally. My experience in styling allowed for me to be a lot more familiar with like the fit and the brands, etc. But it's also, I kind of end up messing up, if you will, just as much as anybody else. I was actually going to wear it, and then I didn't really like it for my outfit. So I bought this shirt on Poshmark, and I thought it was going to look super cute. And I got it in person, and I hated it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take it to Nordstrom. I'm going to see if they can alter this in some sort of way. And by the time I got the quote for the alterations, I was like, man, I bought this shirt for like $15, and the alterations are going to cost me 3 times this amount. So maybe I'll just resell it. So then I went back home, and I realized that the alterations I was going to make to the actual garment, I could probably do myself. It wouldn't look as good. But I ended up, it was a shirt that it had an attached tie in the front. I just cut the whole thing off, and then I loved it. I wear it all the time now. Obviously, as mentioned, as we saw Lucy do, you can donate your items as well. Goodwill and Salvation Army are not necessarily the best options, but they do exist, of course. Locally, in your community, as I mentioned, one of my favorite places is Dayspring. I've loved them since I was 5, so it makes it very easy for me to have that as a go-to. But you can always find some of your other places as well in your community and what that looks like, although most of us are talking about Indianapolis, so that makes sense. In the Tampa St. Pete area, there's actually a super cool woman that I follow that I met at one of the markets. Her handle on Instagram is called Dirty Denim, and she actually repurposes denim, whether it's jeans in some format. She remakes shirts. She does all kinds of cool stuff with it. I actually have a pile of jeans to donate to her, so I'm very much looking forward to that. In New York, I don't know how to necessarily share this with you guys in general. I'll try to post it later, but there's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. They are called Well Clothed Incorporated, and they create personalized clothing care packages for those in need. So depending on what the necessity is, they collect donated clothing, and then they make this curated box for these people that need it. And I think it's so freaking cool. The Instagram handle is Well Cloth D Inc., which we can share some way later, I'm sure. And then after we've eliminated the items from our closet, then we want to fill in the pieces and gaps with other items, ideally from secondhand or thrift or vintage stores. Of course, all of this helps supporting local and diverting several million pounds, as we saw, of goods from landfills. And of course, money. For the most part, when you're buying, as you saw when Lucy was purchasing, the cost of the items was fairly significant, but most secondhand stores give you, if you prefer cash, that's usually about 30% of the value that they'll be selling it for. And then if you do a store credit, it's about 45%, or at least that's how it is at locally at this place I go to here in Tampa. It's called Avalon Exchange. That's how they do it. And then on places like Poshmark, you're able, and certainly like, I don't know if ThreadUp is the same, Facebook Marketplace, same thing. You can usually bargain for a lower price point in which you are looking. So I was going to do this earlier, and I hope to maybe do this with everyone here, but I am briefly going to go over what I am personally wearing. And so I'll start here. I have a Fitbit. It's a Versa 2. I got it off of Facebook Marketplace. So for me, again, that's my my rule, as it has to be new to me. So I purchased it for a little bit lower price point than this other person got it for. The ring that I am wearing here, I apologize, it's the middle finger, so I'm going to try not to do that to you, is from a boutique that I purchased from in St. Pete. It's one of my favorite places there. This is a bracelet I got from Kobe Swap Meet in San Diego. This was the rest of my jewelry is mostly gifted to me from when I was younger. One of the pieces I have on here is this chain was my grandmother's chain, and this was one of my dad's cufflinks. So I kind of made it into a necklace. This shirt that I have on is from Topshop, and while it is 100% polyester, so that drives me crazy. This was prior to me making more conscious decisions, but I wear it all the time, so I feel really good about that. You can't really see, but my jeans are the brand Good American, and I got them off of Poshmark, so I was able to bargain with somebody to I think they usually retail value anywhere from like $95 to $175, something like that. I'm pretty sure I paid like $50 for them, and again, I wear them all the time. The shoes that I'm wearing, this is getting really fun. I hope you guys maneuver the same way, are from the brand Soft, and I also got them off of Poshmark. And I guess one thing I wanted to, again, make mention of with that, if you like my outfit, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. But I do really feel like you can still look great, feel comfortable in what you're wearing, look stylish, and you don't necessarily have to sacrifice all of these things with fast fashion. There are only a handful of other things I wanted to mention. And of course, other ways in which we are, supporting sustainability, obviously with brands that support your same morals and ethics, utilize materials that you prefer. Again, shopping secondhand. If you have a group of friends, you can, but also I can help you with this, host a swap. So if you have like a little pot of people that you were hanging out with during a pandemic that you feel comfortable with, you can do that, and then kind of swap your own items amongst each other. So we're getting a more beneficial, recycling aspect to all of this as well. Locally, there's also a group, depending on the area of Indianapolis that you're in. I used to utilize a place on Facebook, or a group on Facebook called Indy Midtown Swaparoo. So you have to be within certain boundaries, but you can post different things. There was always lots of clothing, but home goods and things as well, and you can either swap or pay a low cost amount. And you can also get these items, and you don't have to have face-to-face interaction. So if you're still kind of keeping to yourself or not wanting to interact with other people, that's certainly a invaluable option as well. I have a handful of favorite resources that I regularly follow on Instagram. Lucy Biggers is one of them. Of course, we saw her video. One Small Step is the the programming that she is the host of on Now This News. There's another handle called the Trash Walker. If you really want to scare yourself into seeing what some companies do or don't do, she is a woman out of New York who ends up going through different companies' trash and like their sponsors. I really hate to bring it up, but it's the first example that came to mind is, and you'll definitely see some videos there where like they actually throw animals away that they don't end up selling to people. They have gone through, there's places like Victoria's Secret or they have even, example, or people will send, I can't think of the word, but people who have previously worked there have been like, at Dunkin' Donuts, they make us throw away, this food after a certain amount of time. Or at Victoria's Secret, they make us cut up bras that are now out of season. And this is another reason for me, this doesn't have to apply to you, but for me personally, that I try to shop in different formats because I don't necessarily want to support things that don't allow for us to what could be potentially donated to other people. If you are interested in doing a little more low waste, there's a handle called Going Zero. It's going.0.waste, and she teaches a lot about how to do it in everyday life, not just clothing and other functionality. Waste-Free Planet is another super cool option. The Well-Clothed Inc., as we mentioned. And if you have not watched it, I think it's amazing. There is a documentary on Netflix called Down to Earth. If you just like Zac Efron, that's another opportunity to watch it too. Or if your kids do, or if you know somebody does. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You're allowed to like Zac Efron and be 70 years old. Who cares? But all the episodes, I think, really help show kind of what goes on through a different perspective all around the world. So I have really kind of commanded your time for a significant amount of it now. And I would love if you have else to say. I would love to hear about what you're wearing, or maybe something that you're excited that you have purchased secondhand, what you may have learned from this experience. We are open for business, so you can turn those mics on, turn your video on. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can send it. I think I have something in the chat, but I don't know what it is.
Honey, what's the link again? The give back box with Amazon. What was that link?
I'd have to go back to the actual video because that was something that Lucy did, but I believe it's I'm sure if you go, I can find it for you and get it to you later.
Perfect.
Also, a little something to note through Amazon. I end up screenshotting and saving so many different things to my phone, but there is an option for no longer utilizing plastic in your packaging. It can be sent to you all recycling. I will find it, the instructions on how you go about it in your settings, and for anything in the future, they will send you as the least amount of plastic possible in the packages that they do send to you. So I will make note of that and send that out as well. I would love to hear about everyone's favorite thing from this workshop. Maybe you can throw it in the chat. I would love that.
I appreciate you doing this workshop on this. I would say there's a lot of ways that I've become more sustainable. Personally, like I downsized into a much smaller apartment, which helps keep things at bay.
Yeah.
A lot of the products that I use, like I tend to use glass over plastic. I reuse a lot of the glass pieces as well. I would say like the clothing is one thing that I've known I need to work on, and I haven't. I don't tend to have a lot of clothes. Like I have a small closet, so I'm definitely not a clothes hoarder like a lot of people, but it's one of those things that I do know that I need to work on. So it was nice to have just like a little refresher to tell me to do that. And I've thought about, one of my things is like I do love a thrift store. I don't love going to thrift stores, and I think it's just a combination of things. It's like my senses are overwhelmed because I don't like the smell.
Oh, I was just gonna say the smell's the worst part, I think.
I hate it. I hate it. And like nothing's organized how I want, like just quick, but I really appreciate being able to, you know, go there and find pieces. My one thing that I personally have issues with is that I go to thrift stores and every time I find something that I love, it doesn't fit me. Like it's for like a size 4, you know, like
Right.
I'm a 12, it's not gonna fit me. So that is, I always get a little deterred. But I do think our thrift market here in Indianapolis is growing more, which is really nice. And I've even looked at, like, I have a sewing machine. I want to even know, like, tailor my own stuff. So if I find something that's, most likely I'd have to find something that's a lot bigger and tailor it down. I'm really interested in doing that. So this was just like a little reminder that I do want to do that, and it's been in the back of my head, and I just need to make the move to do so.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear all those things. I completely agree with you in every endeavor. I mean, like I said, I have a whole degree in knowing how to sew, and I choose not to do it regularly because I hate it so much. So I commend you for being able to do that. Certainly, if you, and I apologize because I'm born and raised in Indianapolis, but I feel like because I haven't been there in so long, I know what I previously knew about it, not necessarily what exists now. So I'm just kind of telling you from my previous knowledge. And like you said, I think the market is growing. Thrifting is definitely, I have come to enjoy it, but it's not something like I go and do regularly. But I do try when I want something immediately, I go there first. I think I went to the mall for the first time a couple months ago, and I was just like, ugh, why? I actually felt physically a little bit ill, and also just like emotionally, like, why am I here? Why would I purchase any of these goods? And then I didn't even find anything that I wanted, where previously I would go to the mall and be like, cool, I'm going to find something. I'm so excited. And then I know this maybe sounds a little out there, but when I go to a thrift store, before I go in, I say, show me anything that was meant for me, because I'm ideally allowing for some divine intervention, just to say, cool, you're not gonna show me those size 4 things that I also do not fit into. I'm only gonna find the things that are meant for me personally. I would also like to read a couple other people's feedback. Somebody said, such important work. You taught me a lot. I don't know if you guys can see this too, so I apologize if you can. I'm just reading what you can already see. Chris says yes. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Never mind. I don't necessarily need to read it for you then. But I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to, if that's okay. T-shirt order. I love this. Oh, shirt quilt. That's so cool. That's awesome that you repurposed it in that way. Thank you so much. I will tell you another, I guess, reason you could say to hire someone like me, or just, it doesn't have to be me, but even somebody who doesn't necessarily know you, is that I don't have emotional attachment to your things. So I am very much able to say and or have a non-biased opinion. So I noticed you were saying, the emotional attachment is real, of course, because they mean something, or even things that are gifted to you, heirlooms, or maybe, somebody passed away and this was their item and you want to keep it, but finding a way that makes sense for you to have. Just for instance, I don't necessarily have this, but let's say my grandfather passed away and he had a bunch of sport coats. I mean, yeah, it might be a little bit more trendy now, but for me to utilize, and let's say he was like 300 pounds, there would be no reason for me to have any of those things. So I do really appreciate that we can figure out ways in which to make these things work for us. And then if you need somebody who doesn't have any relation to you or your grandfather or the sport coats or whatever, that may make your life a little bit easier. incredibly appreciative of you all joining us today, and certainly supporting local, as I'm seeing from a lot of the feedback and a lot of what you said. If you do have any, further follow up, I believe it was presented certainly in how we are marketing Indie Design Week, but my Instagram handle personally is LB as in boy stylist, STYLIST. I believe my email is listed there as well, but happy to put this anywhere else. Mom/Lori, I will get back to you on the Amazon information. And I will actually try and figure out with Chris if there's a way for me to send out for all of you the there it is. Thank you so much. And that is my personal one. I'm working on rebranding for my business, but happy to have you follow me there. I will send out the information in regard to purchasing from Amazon and including less plastic in the packaging as well. Is there anything else anybody wants to mention before we dismiss ourselves?
Yeah, I was just curious, Lauren. So, are you a personal stylist? Is that what I'm gathering here?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know who's speaking, so I'd love to.
Oh, Callie, sorry.
Hi, Callie.
Sorry. I just had a question on that. So I know you mentioned about the topic of when you go to shopping, you don't, well, I don't know how to put this, like you don't like that aspect because of what's going on with like fast fashion and stuff like that, which I get. But when you are like, say if I come to you and I need help in that direction, I guess what's your process with that? Since
Sure.
if I'm used to, going to these places, what is your process for, gravitating me towards that sustainable life? I'm not saying like right now I'm not. I love, going towards that fashion. I was just curious about your process in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So this is, as previously mentioned, I've been at least in this realm for, I want to say about styling. I've been